Matt Bernier, Dan Illman taking a look back at the Grade 2 Twilight Derby at Santa Anita Saturday afternoon. 3-year-olds going 1 mile and an eighth on the turf. They break from the gate. Dan, as somebody that liked Profiteer in this race, were you a little bit surprised to see him pushing the pace?
I was happy to see him pushing the pace. As a matter of fact, at this point, I said, go on with it, Mike Smith. Go on with it, young man. And Mike decided that he was going to sit off the favorite Sharp Samurai. Gary Stevens is a wise old owl himself, and he realized once the speedy Cistrone scratched out of this race, there wasn't a lot of speed. And if you're on the favorite, if you're on a horse that's been on such a roll as Sharp Samurai, you get forward.
You made mention you have Sharp Samurai down on the inside, just to the outside. You have Profiteer opening quarter 23 and 4. They're going to get a half mile, 47 and 3. Just in behind those horses, you have the horses exiting the Del Mar Derby along with Sharp Samurai, I should say. You get Bowie's Hero in there, a couple of other runners as well, Big Score most notably. But at this point, it feels like they're already kind of taken out of their game, a little bit closer to the pace than maybe ideal.
A little bit closer to the pace. I think we've seen a horse like Big Score. He has been a little bit more comfortable close to the pace in recent starts. Bowie's Hero, on the other hand, maybe this is close for him, but I really can't argue with the trip. He's in behind. You're looking at this race right now, though. Profiteer sitting outside of Sharp Samurai. And a lot of folks would be worried, oh, Sharp Samurai is a horse that can run from mid-pack. He can run from the back of the pack. This is the sign of a good horse. His versatility. He's going to extend here, and this is like breaking sticks.
Keep an eye on Ann Arbor Eddie. He ranges up there
for
a moment.
All the way around the track.
The problem is it just doesn't feel like he wants to go this far. He's going to flatten out. Right now, Gary says, let's go on Sharp Samurai. And at this point, even with a couple of these other horses, most notably Big Score, boy, they're not really making up any ground. This horse on the front end really kicks.
I really love this horse's professionalism. He is able to relax on the lead without getting headstrong. He turns into the stretch. He changes leads on cue, and he is straight as an arrow in the lane. This is, 4 in a row for this horse, and it's been a long time since you and I have gotten excited about a West Coast turf prospect. I think Sharp Samurai, Oscar Performance gets all the main headlines with being sort of the best 3-year-old male turf horse in the country. This horse is starting to build up a resume that's getting close to Oscar Performance.
After the race, Gary Stevens had said if the Breeders' Cup were 4 weeks away, I would be running up to Mark Glatt saying we've got to go probably in the turf as opposed to the mile, although the beautiful thing is he can do a little bit of everything, but Stevens seems to be very, very confident that distance is not a problem with this horse.
The way he finished, the way he galloped out, boy, distance shouldn't be a problem. And let's just hope he continues to mature and grow up, because next year at 4, you got to think he's the favorite to run the table in these early season races if they decide to start out early with him.
Sharp Samurai, $6.20 as the favorite on top. Big Score runs second, $4.40. Bowie's Hero, third, $4. It was basically the Del Mar Derby all over again if you included the number 8 Channel Maker underneath for your $1 Superfecta, $251.40. Sharp Samurai, Mark Glatt, tremendous training job. He had mentioned he was just so professional in the mornings in these workouts, and Stevens was on him, and he was waiting, and he was chomping at the bit to get out there. You see, really, he's just under just under $500,000 in career earnings. He's 6 for 9 lifetime. There's really not a lot to knock about this horse.
Not a lot to knock at all. I wonder if he even has one more start in him this year as a 3-year-old before he goes to the sidelines for the winner. But again, his tactical speed, his professionalism, his ability to run fast races. Boy, this Sharp Samurai is an interesting prospect for 2018.
I would imagine all of the top 3, if not the top 4, 5, or 6, they'll all probably be targeting a race like the Hollywood Derby. You're going to have one more opportunity. It's going to be at Del Mar in a few weeks, going 1 mile and an eighth. You know that's not going to be an issue, certainly for the top 3, but it seems like these top 3, boy, if you're the connections of Big Score, or the connections of Bowie's Hero, how do you make up the ground? Or is it a situation where they're not necessarily improving at the rate that Sharp Samurai is?
I don't think they are, and I think we've sort of seen this tune and heard this tune several times where Sharp Samurai might just be a better horse than both Big Score and Bowie's Hero. If you wanted a long shot for the Hollywood Derby coming out of this race, it might be Channel Maker, because this race did not unfold at a very fast pace. Channel Maker was lagging behind in last. We know at additional distances he can make hay. You give this horse a little bit of a pace at a longer distance, and I think he'll acquit himself quite well.
The 2 horses coming in from Maryland, you had Profiteer, you had Just Howard. Was it as simple as, for Profiteer, maybe, I don't know, was it him kind of taken out of his element, taken out of his game, because he's normally coming from off the pace as opposed to being up on it?
I'd love to make that excuse because I picked him and liked him in this race, but he was simply lousy. There was not a fast pace. He was pressing Sharp Samurai. He was outside that horse. He was the one applying the pressure, and this horse was just being outrun at the 5/16 pole, late to change. change leads. The fact that he hung on to finish 5th is an indictment for the rest of this field, with the exception of Ann Arboretti, who, as you mentioned, this distance is too far. He was wide throughout. I wonder if Doug O'Neill is contemplating turf to dirt, cut back in distance, and maybe against Calabreds. Maybe the big, they don't shy away from big races. But Ann Arboretti, we know he's a tough little horse. Maybe he sort of peaked early in his career and there's not much more. But I think he deserves another chance with a cutback and a move from turf to dirt.
Ann Arboretti reminds me a lot of another Redham O'Neill product in B Squared.
Absolutely.
I wonder if you want to keep him on the turf, because I love the way that he was moving. He just got tired. I wonder if some of these horses that can go and do that kind of stuff, be versatile, going long, you get them going down the hill, all of a sudden you get a different animal. And then keep in mind, not only do they have the graded stakes races for him, he's a Calbridge. You've got plenty of options with that horse.
That's right. And the down the hill is really interesting for B Squared. We saw that when he took the scalps of a couple of nice horses in his most recent start. Ann Arboretti and B Squared, they also have versatility.
Absolutely.
Turf, dirt, whatever.
It'll be interesting to see what we get, but it sounds like, and it feels like, the majority of these 3-year-olds will come back in a race like the Hollywood Derby. Cowboy Culture, he came in, he didn't do any running.
He didn't do any running. This is a horse that usually gets good trips. I think you had to question the quality of competition he was facing, whether it was at the fairgrounds, whether it was at Indiana Grand or Arlington Park. And I understand why Brad Cox took a shot here, but he didn't do any running at all. He probably needs a break. Let's bring him back to the fairgrounds as a 4-year-old where we know he can make hay.
Sharp Samurai is just in raging form, and it looks like Mark Glatt has got a really, really talented colt on his hands. He goes and wins the Twilight Derby, just continues to roll along, win graded stakes races with Gary Stevens, gets a 98 buyer in victory.